Ready? Start. An honorable lady member said that there are no big farmers now and that if you have details of small and marginal farmers, you let us know. We do have, madam, details of a small and marginal farmers. We also know what is the amount of area under cultivation by small and marginal farmers. We do have separate schemes for small and marginal farmers. Therefore, while there may be administrative problems, I do not believe there will be serious problems in implementing the schemes that we have. Now, I think honorable member on this site, while quoting some of the statement which I must have made in my earlier period, said that the subsidy did not go to the farmers. Now, I think it is quite true that because our fertilizer industry is not as efficient as elsewhere, and also because the input price in our country is not as low as in many other countries. The price of natural gas for various regions is much higher than the price of natural gas in other countries. For all these regions, the price of domestic fertilizers is higher than the price of imported fertilizers. If we have ample foreign exchange, then we simply say, well, the loss making units in the public sector or in the private sector, we could allow them to die. We would not starve our farmers and we would allow our farmers import of whatever fertilizers were needed. I mentioned more than once before that. Unfortunately, that option we do not have. So, the choice that our farmers have is not cheaper imported fertilizers versus no fertilizer. The choice today is to have only domestic fertilizers. If you say that you are not going to have that, well, we cannot give them imported fertilizers in the situation when foreign exchange is simply not available. It was also asked about the disparity between the urban and rural areas. Now, I do share this concern. While replying to the debate on the other seat, I did say that I am very worried that this urban rural divide is widening, that it is very explosive, and therefore we must take measures which cut that root of this widening disparity. And I also said in the other house that if you look at this problem in depth, you cannot resolve these tensions by giving subsidies to 70% of the population. There is no mechanism in the world which can say that you give subsidies to 70% of the population. The country will go bankrupt, and I think all the talk of social justice and removing disparity will came to end. The only way to deal with the urban and rural disparities into strike at the root of the problem, and the root of the problem is that we have an accessibly protected industry. You have been talking of inefficient fertilizer industry. That is true of most branches of Indian industry, but we have to live with it. We cannot overnight get away from a highly protected, from the inefficient industrial structure. We have to gradually subject this industry to greater competition, both domestic competition and foreign competition. We cannot afford to kill our industry, because if you kill that industry, the farmers would be the sufferers. And that is why we have this new strategy which seeks to reduce the level of protection given to industry. If that strategy works out, you might see in this country for the first time a most emphatic program seeking to bridge the gap between the rural and urban divide. This urban rural divide cannot be bridged by giving handouts to agriculture or the farmers in our country. Now, another question was raised whether this will lead to a decline in production. My answer is that under normal condition this is not likely to happen. Several questions were asked. I think Honorable Member asked about the fraud of rupees 100 crores. I do not know anything about it. If my honorable colleague, the Minister of Agriculture, knows something about it, I would request him to supplement. He also referred to the lacunae in the fixation of retention prices. I take note of his concern. I will have it conveyed to the Honorable Minister of Fertilizers as well, the suggestion that there ought to be a parliamentary committee to look at the whole system. Then one last question, whether we are cutting subsidies or we are cutting expenditure as such. Sir, I mentioned in my budget a speech that we are now in the process of cutting expenditure, wasteful expenditure, wherever it exists. We have cut at one go the export subsidy worth rupees 3000 crores. We have also reduced subsidies in a number of areas. We have also begun a process of looking at all administrative expenditure. I have asked all the ministries of the government of India to prioritize their activities. I am hoping that by 31st August this work will be completed.